Hey, good morning. No need to do the golf talk whisper this time. It's a little bit later start. Yay, we did have our first wedding this weekend on Friday. It was absolutely beautiful. So today, sleeping in just a little bit, so not out here at the crack of dawn at 5 or 6 when I've been getting out here. It is closer to 8, 9. So a little bit windier. Hopefully that doesn't come through. I've got a double windscreen thingamajigger on the mic, so hopefully it's not too bad. A short day in the garden, unfortunately. Have to go visit some relatives. We don't have to. We're looking forward to it. And I get to bake a rhubarb strawberry pie, so they'll like that. So I'm gonna bring a rhubarb strawberry pie up to see the relatives. But I'm gonna try to get some work on the straw bales. They're ready to plant. They've been conditioned. I need to get some cages and do a little pruning on the tomato plants, and hopefully we'll show a little bit about weeding. If you can see where the snapdragons are in right here, it's kind of all green. If you remember back, I think episode 3 when Terry Knight, Garden Bite, was here, we kind of said, make sure that you don't overdo it. Don't just, start small. Don't get too crazy on it, because at some point it catches up to you. And this is where it starts to catch up. If you let those teeny little weeds grow right now, it's just gonna get away, away, away. So this is that maintenance part where you don't want to start too big on your garden and have it get away from you. And then if Joel is watching, he'd say, well, just plant straw bales and you don't have to weed at all. You might be right. It'll be fun to watch. And working away on the coffee this morning. So beautiful cup here from, isn't that nice? Cheers, let's get gardening. And the garden dog. Well, hi there. This is Glenn. Kind of halfway through filming out in the garden and realizing that it was a very, very windy day. That's easy to tell by just looking at the trees dance around. I kind of, in my mind, as I was filming, decided that I was going to add a little bit more commentary, just fill in a little bit more information about the garden as we're going. So here it is. Working on the tomatoes. Pruning tomatoes is always important. So as they grow, I kind of limb up the bottom branches, pick out the little stem that grows out and crotches on the branches that come out, and generally try to push those tomatoes up higher. And then got the cages on there. We're going to put bigger cages on some of those tomatoes. Some of those tomatoes will get 5 to 8 feet tall, so they're going to get another cage on top of them, but that's the internal structure cage. And always good to talk about weeding, especially when we're rejuvenating the garden. We're going to have a lot more weeds to deal with. And if you notice, it seems like I'm hoeing and loosening up ground that really doesn't need to be done for weeding, but that's what keeps it less weeds. I don't want to say weed free, but less weeds. And that's just breaking up all the little seeds that get there. And if you just kind of keep working the soil loosely on the top, it really minimizes as we go along. Did a little work on the cucumbers, pulled the weeds there, and now I'm actually adding another bed here. And that was part of the plan, is get the original beds kind of organized, straighten out all that bluestone. You saw that in the video before, and then slowly work on getting the rest of the garden organized and cleaned. And so here's another little patch. Where I'll go through, pull out the weeds, especially the rhizomes from like the quack grass, and get that going. All right, a little close-up. Time to talk cucumbers. We have the cucumber ladder, and that's that whole structure. I'm going to be doing a whole video just on growing cucumbers in the cucumber ladder. But here we see that I'm doing that little bit of hoeing, and a little garden rake, garden trowel rake like that is very handy. And it's just loosening up the top, and because the soil was so nice and I want to say loosened up when we first put it in, those weeds pull out really easy, and you can reshape it Now, when I planted on the other side, the slicers did really well. The picklers, I did not have a good germination for whatever reason. Maybe too early, maybe not enough moisture, maybe too much moisture. But probably 2 out of 12 seeds. That's all that germinated. So we're going to be adding some more of the picklers and just going to space them out here. Get them going. And still working by seeds the best way with cucumbers, just that direct sow into there. But now we're going to be planting some straw bales in a bit, and it'll actually be kind of cool because I put some of these same pickler seeds in the straw bales, so we might have a real comparison to see how they go. If you prefer one way versus the other, leave me a comment down below. That would be great. Okay, continuing on to kind of clean the little beds, and this is one of the tricks. If you just stay with it, it will make a huge difference. Just loosening it up, getting the weeds while they're small. Cages. So these are all my chilies and peppers in this row, and I really do like to put a cage around my peppers because they will get fairly big. They'll get probably 24 to 30 inches tall, loaded with fruit, and possibly need some additional support. So over the years, I've just found that I like to add one of the smaller little circle cages around my peppers so they don't fall over. And as usual, everything goes great until you hit that one rock, and then you try to move it, and it seems like that rock moves as you move it and change the location, and then you hit the rock again. Anyways, take a look to the right there. That's the snapdragons, and there's all that light green. Those are small weeds, and that just shows you the difference of where the chilies I've kind of raked a couple of times or hoed a couple of times, and I have not in the snapdragons, and that's just a good example of how that little bit of hoeing makes a huge difference. All right, chilies are all aged up, and they're actually looking good. A lot of good whip growth. All right, and it's time to get after the straw bales. This is kind of exciting. First year working with straw bales. Make sure you check out episode number 4, where the straw bale garden guy himself, Joel Karsten, came down and helped me lay out the beds, the straw bales, and just kind of get started and work with it. That was really helpful. Going to put a card right up there, and that will take you to that video. One of the things when you lay out your straw bales, you don't have to get every single thing done because there's a conditioning period to get the bales. So I've conditioned now for about 16 or 18 days, so they're in good shape. And just before I planted some of them, I wanted to get a few more of the wires in place. So I'm going to get 3 wires on each of the poles right now. And my poles were 6 feet. Poles, the T-posts on the end were 6 feet. So there's only 5 feet sticking out. So I am going to have to come up with some method, whether I just get some more T-posts and go up higher. But you really should have your kind of trellis structure go up at least 7 feet. So I've got some additional work to do there. But this is why, kind of as you start to do straw bale gardening, it's quite nice where you can condition the bales, get things planted, and then continue to work on the structure above. For future, once all that structure is in there, you can just swap out bales. So it's a really cool method. So we'll see what happens next year. I'm still not saying I'm on the fence on straw bales. I like where it's going. I still have to actually grow something in them. But planning on putting new bales on the other side, and then the second year, you do kind of different crops in your straw bales, and we'll cover that in a future video. But here we are getting the rest of the wires on, and then just putting more water, just keeping that gallon a bale of water a day. Warmed water, that's why it's coming out of the 5-gallon pails for now. All right, it is time to put the very first plant in the straw bale. Kind of exciting. I ended up having an extra San Marzano Roma tomato, and I put that in that little 1-gallon container, so it's been growing in there for a couple of weeks because the other tomatoes went in the ground 2 weeks prior to this video. So it actually had a little bit of root growth, And I think we'll loosen it up and you can see how far my hand is going in there. Because tomatoes, you kind of dig out, stick it down in there. I've pruned it up a little bit, so we'll get more root growth on the stem of the tomato plant. But once their bales are conditioned, it's surprising how easy the straw on the inside pulls out, still moist. Add some of that soil back in around the stem of the tomato, and then I think I took the straw that was there and just gonna pack that in so it just had a nice sealed up all the way around there. Put the tag in, I don't really need to. And then we watered it in. That's always important, watered it in. All right, next crop going in is going to be some pole beans. So some French cut snap, something like that, beans. And this is where you just put some soil, some grow mix. If I were to do this again, the grow mix has a lot of sphagnum peat moss and is really light. I think I would do a heavier mixture just so it doesn't dry out as fast. So these first beans didn't germinate quite as fast as I thought they should have, and maybe that's because they dried out. We'll see. 5-inch spacing, so just kind of doing a checkerboard 5-inch spacing. Just poking them in and getting them about an inch down so they're actually just underneath that soil, right at the straw bale level. And then we're going to use our nice little dram, one touch water with the shower, and that works so slick. The water in the hose is actually warmed by the sun, so that's kind of cool. So I don't run too much, and then I turn it off, and then it warms up again. So here we are putting in those cucumbers. So I got some cucumbers on the back, the same picklers as before. So that will be kind of an interesting little test to see which one does better. Shoving some basil in on the side of the bales, and I think that's about all I got done. So the first planting went really well and kind of cool. Wanted to get my pumpkin seeds in, so I went over to my compost bin, got almost the last of the compost. I know I'm still going to put some potatoes in the ground. They should be in the ground, but oh well, they'll get in the ground. But pumpkins are a squash, you know that, and they love that high organic mixture, so they're going to do really well in there, and that's just going to take up a big hunk of the garden there, and that's just fine because this is getting back into it, and I will just keep hammering. Don't try to do too much, and some are probably saying I'm doing too much here, but pumpkins will get in the ground, and that bed that I worked up earlier is just going to get some flowers. So not just flowers, come on, you know me by now. 50% of the garden should be flowers, if not more. So we're going to do, I think these are poppies that we put in here. So these are just going to be just lightly scattered on the top. Poppies don't need to be all that deep, so just scattered. And I think I just lightly traced across the soil to cover them and packed them in, and then they'll get watered. I know I might put a couple other flowers on each side of this row. More the merrier, that's all there's to it. And then to give them a good soaking down. And it's also important to water directly where the seed is. Don't use the big, huge overhead watering. That's how you start watering the weeds, and you get more weeds and you waste water, and the vegetables don't like to be that wet. So just direct water like I am right here. Thanks to Michelle, she actually made a delicious carrot cake, so I did not have to make a strawberry rhubarb pie, so I could stay in the garden longer and get a lot done. That was pretty sweet, but kind of an abbreviated day in the garden, not a bad thing, probably like 4 or 5 hours, and got quite a bit done. The rejuvenation is going well. There's Jack the garden dog. How about that? He is enjoys these days sitting out there. How can you not? Pretty relaxing. Listening to the birds. All right, that's it for the voiceover. Now we'll listen to this guy wrap the video up. Thanks. Bye-bye. Well, not a full day in the garden. Hopefully it's not too windy when I do this little outro. Got a lot done. Got some straw bale planted, got some weeding, got some cages in, more flowers in the garden. I know I'm gonna do some voiceover, so a lot more information, don't need to share it right now. But good morning, good early afternoon. Now it's time to go have some fun with some rallies. So, have a good week. Best to you. Peace and understanding. Enjoy.